everyone, and welcome to the Private Practice Growth Club Facebook page live event where we are going to be chatting with Snaina Laka from the Confidence Institute, and she's going to be talking to us about how you can pivot your private practice with confidence. She and I are both very excited to be having this with you because I think it's a very apt subject to be talking about during this trying times. I think nobody envisioned they would be where they are today last year this time. And I read a joke somewhere or meme where they said that basically everybody who had set their 1 year goal for themselves last year, we've all failed because life has kind of thrown us a curveball. And for many people, the need to pivot in their business, including in private practice for health professionals, is a very relevant topic. So I'm quite excited to welcome her. I'm going to bring her up onto the screen right now so that she can introduce herself. And Sunaina, welcome. You are now live.
Hi, everyone. This is all new technology and a new way of living life, but I'm so excited because it fits in perfectly to what we're doing today. For those of you who don't know me, you might have seen my name on various groups. I'm very vocal about speech therapy, I'm vocal about coaching, and I just put myself out there, and that's part of myself being a confidence coach. As Tasneem said, we're going to be speaking about how to pivot your private practice with confidence. So a little bit about me. Who am I? I am a practice owner of Sunaina Laka Speech Therapy, and we have two private practices in Johannesburg. So we consult in the hospitals, mainly in the ICU and the medical wards. And as I was, working as a speech therapist, I really felt this pull towards something more than just being in the medical profession, and that might be where some of you are at this stage. And for me, it's really about diversifying what you can do with your life. We talk about multiple streams of income. We talk about multiple, avenues of passion. And that's a little bit about what I'm going to be touching on today. So I'm the founder of the Confidence Institute, and I am a business NLP and confidence coach. And I'm also the PR spokesperson for the Johannesburg Entrepreneurs Toastmasters Club. So I'm kind of all over the place. And if you're anything like me, this is what December 31st, 2019 looked like. You were like, 2020 is my year. I'm going to smash it. Travel, exploration, wealth, fun, adventure. This is what my year is going to look like. And then 2020 said to me, hold on, sister. I think you're more in the space of midlife crisis, Netflix, having an extensive pajama collection instead of earring collection, and starting to learn how to make banana bread. So I'm pretty sure most of you can relate to this and have eaten tons and tons of banana breads and pastries over the last few weeks. So yeah, that's been me. So reframing life during a pandemic. The first thing is there is no new normal. So for me, I don't know about you, but I'm getting a bit sick of hearing the new normal because the more I hear about new normal, the more I feel like I'm completely abnormal. I sort of start to think I should be more normal. I should be okay. I should be waking up and feeling more like myself. And let me just say, I have good days and I have bad days. I'm not sure if you're in the same space, but I mean, there is just no new normal. And with that, when it comes to our practices, there's not going to be the normal that we know as private practice owners. So, how do we find a new way of being in a space that we actually don't know how to navigate at this stage? Comma versus full stop. What the pandemic has asked me, the questions that have come up for me is where in my life is there a pause or a comma where things perhaps need to be on pause? Many of you, being private practice owners who were in stage 5, possibly couldn't actually see patients, and as such, your private practice was put on pause. There may be parts of your practice that are still on pause, and working with a coach sometimes helps you to see where you need to pause or sometimes where you also need to have a full stop. There are parts of our practice that don't serve us any longer or are no longer applicable or we are unable to function going forward. So, do those parts of our practice need to then end and be reborn into something else as we go on through this pandemic? So, those are questions I'd like you to think about and ask yourself. That they've definitely helped me to reframe. And the last part is the energy of abundance. So, previously, prior to pandemic, I was aware of my thoughts, but now I'm even more so aware of my energy and my thoughts. The thing about this is that if I have an energy of scarcity and I'm thinking that things are not going to work in my practice, I'm not going to get patients, people are not referring to me, it's very difficult for me then to attract the type of clients that I would like to have in my practice. It's going to be very difficult for me to attract abundance in my own life, in my thinking, as well as in my private practice. And we're going to explore that a little bit more in the next slide. Okay, so to make this a bit simpler for all of us, because I think we all need a little bit of simplicity in this pandemic, I have used the acronym ACT. And the first part of ACT is A, which is awareness. Firstly, let's check in with how we really are feeling. Because if I don't have awareness of how I'm feeling, I'm going out there and my emotions are actually hijacking my actions. We know when we're having bad days or challenging days, or we're worrying about something, having anxiety, we do not show up as our best selves. And how does that look when we're not showing up as our best selves? How does that look on phone calls with clients, on Zoom calls with clients, talking to doctors or stakeholders and trying to get clients? It might be that we're repelling the business or the patients that we actually want to attract just because we're not dealing with these inner emotions and the feeling. And in no way should you be going, I should be fine, I should be happy, I should be dealing with this. No, we're dealing, all of us are dealing with this differently, and it's about just being aware of what's going on. But then there are ways to shift that and to shift the energy and to create a more positive space within your own mind. What is my inner power? With so much being snatched away from us with COVID, it almost feels like we're powerless and that we don't have control. And I ask you now, what is within your control? What is within your power? And what are your inner strengths, capabilities, skills that you have innately that can pivot your business? And that might need some exploration, sitting down with a journal and looking at that a bit further. Self-talk, inner critic, and imposter syndrome. So I love this one because I think as healthcare professionals, we really deal with this a lot. We're in a pandemic, and when you get to a point where possibly your practice has come to standstill, or you're reaching out to clients or patients or doctors, and you're not getting referrals, you're not getting your client load, you can start to question who you are. And you can start to question whether you have value or worth and whether what you do makes a difference. And as you know, those thoughts, you're thinking 50 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Those thoughts then become what you tell yourself and the belief you have. If my belief is that I'm not going to make an income in pandemic because it's just too difficult and I'm not a frontline ICU essential worker, then I'm going to block myself from finding ways of pivoting. I'm going to block myself from looking for those opportunities, which are masked as problems. Okay, so we really need to be careful about our awareness of where we are at this stage. Do I know my worth? So I had a few clients messaging me saying, they have private clients that they charge privately, and they're saying, I'm feeling really bad to ask them to continue therapy because, we're in a pandemic and people are struggling with money at this stage. And my question to them was, so what is your worth? What value are you adding to this patient's life? If you weren't seeing them, would they be stagnant? With your therapy and your intervention, what is actually happening? How is that improving their life? Are you moving them forward and pushing them towards a goal that they perhaps have, like reintegration, like getting back to some sort of normality or social integration? So we need to look at that and realistically understand what we add as therapists, what we add as allied professionals, and where our worth really lies. Daily rituals have been really important for me because in a space where nothing is certain, where every day is not normal, where we can get so sucked into emotions and fear and anxiety and new environments, The thing that helps to ground me and the clients that I coach is daily rituals. What are the little things that we are doing every single day consistently that can help us to just ground ourselves and be in a space of awareness, hope, positivity, and even in a space of creating? Because when we're in a space of negativity and being down and anxiety and not even being aware, then we're not creating. And when you're not creating, how do you find opportunities? How do you pivot? How do you ask for help? How do you ask for patience? It's virtually impossible. Okay, we're going to touch a little bit on the action points of how to. So the next part of ACT is connect. And the question I have to you is, do you understand what your particular zone of genius is? We cannot be masters of everything. We often become masters of none, right? So you may have a practice where you're seeing pediatrics and adults in a variety of different patients, but what is it that brings it all together, that ties it all together? An example being, you may be a neuro, peds, and adult therapist. You may be somebody who works with school age children on different types of, levels of therapy or, deficits or difficulties. So when you get more clearer about what you do and what is it exactly that I offer, that's when you get closer to being able to convey that to others. And we're going to talk about that in the slides. So your soulful business and marketing plan. If any of you were like me, I graduated many, many, many years ago. Um, and at that stage, I mean, nobody even spoke to us about business or marketing. Like, huh, what is that? I remember when I started private practice, it was more like me phoning up friends and going, how do I do billing? And literally just going with the flow and trying to just, figure it out as I went along. And in today's day and age, that just doesn't work because that means we're like a paddle boat in this massive ocean, and you're just hoping that the waves are going to take you somewhere. You actually don't know where you're going. So when you have a target, you put it down on paper, you become crystal clear about what that target is and how to actually achieve it. And then with marketing, we also taught to not brag, to not market, to not put ourselves out there. But how do we do it in a way that's ethical, that follows the HPCSA or your regulatory board guidelines? Because we have to be out there talking to people about what we do and why they should actually buy from us, why they should actually be our clients. Niche, most of us can actually find a niche in our area. So if you're all over the place prior to pandemic and COVID, maybe you were seeing anyone and everyone, and you were expending your energy on every type of client that you can get. And there possibly was an energy of desperacy. Is there a way that you can niche down a bit more and you can find more of your specialized skill and your specialized ideal client that will help you to become the thought leader or the go-to person in that area? Okay, creativity. As I mentioned before, if your mind is cluttered and full with a whole lot of just junk in it, then how do you create? You actually can't create. And the only way that you can look at a problem and find an opportunity in the problem is to be creative. So many people would look at the pandemic and find every single thing that's wrong with it and find every problem that it's caused in their life. How do you find a way to look at it with new eyes and to find the opportunity within that and to say, okay, this is actually with the pandemic, there's a lack of this in our field. And there's a lack of someone being a specialist in this specific area. How do I become that specialist, or how do I niche myself into that area? No like and trust factor. Um, Before I became a coach, I didn't really know this, but people are not buying usually your product, or they're not buying your service, okay? Just because you're a good physio or a speech or OT or dietitian or whatever, and you can do it well, doesn't mean that they're going to consistently show up as your clients and buy from you. They're going to consistently be your client when they feel connected to you, when they feel that they know who you are, that they like who you are because they know that you're looking out for their best interests and that they trust you. And there are ways of doing this, like are we connecting with our stakeholders on a regular basis? Are we going out there and actually just being vulnerable? And this is something I did last week where I messaged the dietitian and I said, wow, I haven't been this quiet in years. How are you doing with your practice? How are you managing? And the human element of me then connected with the human element of her. And we had this very long chat about how we're feeling and how it's affecting our practices. And for me, that connects us, because then as she's then going to see clients, and this is the exact thing that happened, the next day she went into the ICU and she saw clients. She picked up a patient that I needed to see. And she's like, you know what? We were talking about this yesterday and we need to support each other. And I found a client for you. So how are you, getting out there to get patients to know, like, and trust you? And then also, why should clients or why should your stakeholders refer to you? Why would they come back to you? There's so much noise out there, and what I mean by that is, if you're a physio or dietitian, speech, whatever profession you're in, within your area that you are geographically based, there are probably 4 or 5 other professionals who do something very similar to you. And now with teletherapy, it is literally a therapist who lives in Sandton could see a patient who lives in Soweto. A therapist who lives in Mpumalanga could see a patient who lives in Johannesburg. So how do we find a space to, I wouldn't say be different, but show our uniqueness and to put ourselves out there, that we stand out from the noise and the white noise that's already there, that's already overshadowing our practices. Transition. So that's the T of ACT. I love this picture that says action changes things. And for me, that's actually become a mantra. And I say that to me all the time when I get stuck and I'm lying on the couch watching Netflix and I've seen like the whole of Money Heist in like 3 days and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not doing anything. Then I think action changes things. And it shifts my energy almost immediately, because it catalyzes me into going, what am I doing to shift the situation that I'm feeling so negative about? Okay. So empower your zone of genius. Once you understand what you're good at, or even if it's broadly, I'm a speech therapist and I work mainly with peds and adults. How are you then going out there to become the best, or to become really top of your game? Because if you have time now to do that, that's something that you should be capitalizing on. Action your reframe plan. So you first need to look at the plan, have a plan, and then you need to pivot it and look at new ways of doing what you did 2 months ago or 3 months ago, new ways of reaching your clients, reaching your stakeholders, being visible through your action plan. Automate. This has really helped me. As practice owners, we spend a lot of time on admin that we could possibly automate. And because we're not coaches and we don't have the business know how, we don't always think about this. So, for example, your accounting. Are you literally sitting at the end of the month with piles and piles of papers and filing and whatever, when there are ways to actually automate that system? There are accounting services that can do that. Our team meetings and to-do lists, there's something called Trello that you can all be on, and you can actually be on one spreadsheet looking at one thing. Okay, so how do you automate? Collaboration, communication, and visibility. We've touched a little bit on that, but collaboration, looking at things with new eyes. Who can you collaborate with that you never really previously had to collaborate with, or previously you never thought you would collaborate with? So, an example being, if you're a physio, could you perhaps collaborate with a Pilates teacher and perhaps do online lessons or something for people that they would pay privately for? How do you get in touch with schools, perhaps, or the teaching and education system as a PEDS therapist, and integrate yourself that you can collaborate with them? So just think differently, think creatively about that. Take consistent action and show up powerfully. This is something that's personally affected my practice immensely, because there can be times where you question where you're going, you question whether anything's really happening, you question whether you're going to get clients. And if we're not taking consistent, aligned action and showing up powerfully in our practices every single day, in whichever way that means for you, it's going to be very difficult for you to create change. So, what I love about this is that I'm very attracted to Tasneem's way of doing things, because as as the Private Practice Growth Club, she is consistently showing up. And what I like about her, she takes imperfect action. So she'll say, I didn't dress up today, or my kids are screaming in the background, or I'm at the beach. But she shows up. And what that teaches us is to just show up imperfectly every single day, um, consistently, because then that consistent action eventually leads to a goal that we want to achieve. And the last thing about this is have fun. So there was a point where I was lying on my couch and I was worried about the logistics of every area of the practice and what was going to happen and the doing. I was like busy, caught up in busyness. And then I said, well, I'm missing the joy of what makes me a speech therapist. And I started to phone my patients and just have a conversation with them and just connect. And I started to do things like, keep calling my patients twice a week to give them feedback. And I love that. And I connected more with the joy of what I love doing in my practice. Because when we do that, we connect to the why we started our practice. We connect to the energy of what sets us apart from any other therapist, what we uniquely can do that nobody else can actually do. Okay, so that is ACT in a summary. And one of the reasons for me doing this is because I've been getting a few calls from therapists. I myself been looking at pivoting, and my previous clients have been coming to me and saying, Sunaina, we need help. We need you to help us to figure out a creative way of finding a new way of being, finding a new way of sustaining our practices. So I created the special for the Private Practice Growth Club. And my normal session rate is about 1,200 Rand, but I know that in COVID, I want to serve. And for me, serving means that I connect with the community that has helped me grow and has helped me learn. And that's you guys. It's Private Practice Growth Club. And I am offering sessions on mindset, creativity, confidence, branding, positioning, goal setting, business plan, and practical pivoting, amongst some of the things that we work through, because I adopt a very unique approach. It's not about just one size fit all. It looks at you specifically, uniquely as a person. Okay. I'm offering it on special with your reference as PPGC. And yeah, so let me know if you're keen for the offer. You can send me an email on sunaina@confidenceinstitute.co.za. Today, because of time, I spoke a lot about the what we need to be doing. I spoke about the overall. I didn't speak about the why, and I didn't have time to teach you the how. And so, really, coaching is more about the why and the how. And when you know those two, you will be unstoppable. And I can say this because with my practice, we are still sustaining 3 people in the practice. It's challenging, but we're finding new ways of being and new ways of serving. And this has really come from me going through my coaching and not giving up hope and finding, a mirror to show me where I can actually pivot and find a new avenue to grow. Okay, so I love this quote. It says, in our powerlessness, we discover our true power. And there have been so many times in COVID where I felt completely powerless, as you may have. And I will have good days, and then I'll have one day where I just really want to lie on the couch and do nothing. That's also okay, as long as I know that I give myself that day, but the next day I get back in and I snatch my power back. And I try and do whatever is within my control to pivot my practice, because there are a lot of people dependent on my practice, whether that's the therapists who work for me or the billing person who helps me. And with that, it's also their families. And that's how I look at it, that I don't have I don't have space right now to fail. I don't have space right now to not try, because there are so many people dependent on my success. Okay. And that's what I will leave you with today. I hope you found that informative. We wanted it to be quick, interesting. Let me know if you have questions, comments.
Thank you so much. I think that was really interesting. I think because I mean, there's a lot of the stuff that you mentioned. It's stuff that we talk about in the academy as well. But I think what's really great is that sometimes you need more of a one-on-one, because a lot of that you can go through a process and it needs to be general because it caters for everyone, but it's not easy. Like I actually say to people that they would be surprised that actually the mindset part is actually the hardest part, because we all think it's the business side that's difficult. We think it's
Yeah.
the finances and because we're scared of that stuff, but those are tangible things. That's why we think it's the hard stuff, because we can actually tangibly say why it's difficult. But actually when we really dig deep into why those things are difficult, a lot of it is rooted in the mindset stuff. And the stuff that you were talking about finding your why and your vision and all of that. I mean, we have exercises in the academy that takes you through that. But like I say, it's a group exercise. It's an exercise you do on your own, and we do group coaching. But it's a very difficult exercise for a lot of people. And if you feel that you need that more kind of individualized, somebody that's going to really sit with you specifically and individualize the process for you, then that's where you need a more one-on-one kind of coaching, which is what you are offering. Is there anything
So
you want to add, Sunaina?
yeah, Tasneem, I want to just talk a little bit about, the mindset stuff. So a lot of our belief systems and our obstacles are very subconscious, and we're not even aware of it. So I might have been saying, oh, negative mindset and your thoughts and your beliefs, and some people might be sitting there going, okay, that sounds like very, top level. I don't really know. And it's only with coaching that we really go into the specifics, and we find. Firstly, we go through subconscious processes where I untap your own subconscious thinking and your consciousness, where the hidden answers are. Because when you're just thinking from the brain, when you just think about something, you think you know the answer. And that's actually not, when you're in stillness, is when the answers come to you. So the mindset part, honestly, for me, is really the biggest area that we need to tackle before you even move on to strategy or building a confident practice through anything else. Yeah.
Hmm. So I think, I mean, nobody's asked that question, but I think that's something I would want to know if I was interested in the coaching is like, how does it work? Like, how do you book? When do you do the coaching? How do you do it? That kind of thing. Maybe you can just share that part.
Okay, so bookings, the easiest way is to get me on email. So I don't know if there'll be links to anything here. You can even add a link to my page. You can contact me through my page as well. And then we do an alignment process. So we first see where you're at and what your goals are and where I can possibly assist you. Okay. Then with that, we work through a strategy using confidence coaching, business coaching, and neuro linguistic, which is subconscious coaching, to get you to where you want to be. Okay, so I know there's a few people on here who've actually done the processes. So I don't know if they are willing to comment, but I mean, I know one therapist who, I worked with. She was working for a company for a while, and she always had this inner, like it was these questions and this inner feeling like she's just not living on purpose. She's doing her work, but there's something bigger. And I used to always tell her, you should start your own practice. And she was like, no, 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 it's not for me. And for years, I told her that. And she became a client. And we worked through one session where she had a goal setting session on private. What came out of her subconscious mind was that she needed to, at some point, open up a private practice. And there was still a bit of like anxiety around it. But I mean, if I check to her now, it's the best decision she ever made. And she was supposed to do it in like 18 months or 12 months. And she ended up opening up a practice in like 6 to 8 months, just because she untapped into something that was sitting there that she had denied for so long because there was a fear or there were obstacles or mindset blocks on that, thinking, I'm not that person. I can't do that. That's not me. I'm not competent
Mm,
enough.
mm,
And when she untapped it, it was just like fire. And I can't even tell you, she's doing so amazingly well in her practice right now that like my heart just lights up, when these things happen. Because all of this is about purpose. I've gone through it. I've done a lot of this, and I've gone and studied more and more and more so that I am ready for heart-centered practices to start a practice or to pivot.
mm. And then I think, and then what is the how is the session done? Are you doing it over Zoom, or how are you
Yeah.
doing it? Because I'm
So at this
assuming normally you would do it in person, but now obviously you
Yes. So it works quite well. I mean, I have an international caseload. When I say caseload, I mean my
okay.
coaching clients are in Zambia. I've coached clients in South America, strangely enough, in the UK. So it's online via Zoom, and I'll give you the link, and it's very easy to do. And there are some people will say, okay, but it's not the same as being in person. But you'll be surprised as how connected you are on the call. So it's really
Mm,
about putting that objection aside and trying something new. Because if your practice
mm,
is like that worth it for you, you'll try new things, and you'll see that it might
yeah,
actually work for you, or it may not. Yeah.
yeah,
And then the
yeah.
session, how it works is I would say for three, like it's better to do 3 sessions, because that way you haven't just started and then left it. You need that
Mm,
initial guidance for 2 to 3 sessions to get yourself started. And then from there, you can see whether it's working for you or not, or whether it's something that aligns with
mm,
your vision or not.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then the special pricing, is that for a limited period of time, or
So that's for the
because
private
this
practice growth.
video is going to be going onto the YouTube, so I just want to make
Yes.
sure that people understand till when they can make,
So
benefit from the.
it's for the private practice growth club until the end of the year. So
Okay.
I think what I've really learned, even from my own coaches, is that there's no point having high price coaching when you're not serving anybody, because they can't afford to have your services, and then they can't afford to grow. So then how are
Mm,
you actually serving, and how are you actually living on purpose? So it's
okay.
till the end of the year for private practice growth club members, yeah, or group.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So, I mean, if you know me, you know I'm everywhere. So I'm pretty easy to find. If you just go to Confidence Institute
Yeah.
on Google, you'll find me. So just do that if you lost.
But thank you so much for your time and taking the time to put this presentation together and go through all of this. I think it was really valuable for everybody, whether you are in private practice or not. I think either way, it would still be valuable. So yeah, and I hope that people will take you up on your offer, because I think it can be really useful for a lot of people. So bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.